deconstruct this, take the features that make this convenient, the most convenient device ever created, and make it more convenient if it's on a wrist, make it more convenient if it's on like a pair of glasses, and figure out how you can make it so much more convenient that this thing becomes obsolete. So Apple needs to focus on disrupting this thing completely, and the form factor on the watch, like the iWatch, should take the roadmap, the product roadmap that makes the iPhone the most convenient thing on the planet, and that should be the form factor there. Same thing with Google Glass. The reason why we don't use Google Glass, one, because it's not an empathetically designed thing. Two, it's because the people that built it don't understand the basic tenets of human sociology. Like, they just don't get it. And it's just not a convenient thing. You got to charge it. It's not driving the market like it needs to be. Apple, they know what they're doing. I'll tell you, the Moto 360, it's an extremely convenient device, all except for the fact that it doesn't connect to my iPhone. I got to change devices to use it, right? And so what you'll see is people starting to take like the features that make the phones super convenient and laying them into the right form factor. When that happens, you won't just like leave your smartwatch on the table because you forgot to charge it. You'll be charging that sucker every 20, 30 minutes just to make sure that it's up to speed. Those are the things that need to happen for this market to really take off, and we're almost there.
Okay, Anil?
I think the billions of people on the planet that are actually going to be touched are going to be driving that whole experience. I think I was just reading the Times list of the 100 most influential people on the planet, and there was this guy who learned to speak English, I think 2 years ago, and he presented yesterday at the Thai Forum. He was a guy who actually devised how to use cheap, wearable sanitary napkins for people, for women who were ashamed to actually talk about the subject. Yeah. And he is on the Times 100 top most influential people. It's not about him. It's the fact that he's reached a whole market of people who had a problem. So I think our problems are going to define what we actually do, and then getting that onto the device will be the challenge of people like us sitting in this room and try to figure out how to solve the problem with the wearable. Some of them are actually compounded, some of them might just go away, some of them might become part of history. But I think it's human innovation and problems that are going to be addressed through the device that are going to be addressing some of this change.
Thank you very much. So Martin?
I think if I look at the market from our perspective, we see two things. So we see, if you look at what the analysts are talking about and the billions of dollars that are going into this particular theatre right now, it's a very exciting space to be part of, and I think there's a responsibility for companies like ourselves to execute responsibly and actually deliver. So the market itself is going to be huge, but one of the things that we're focused on in terms of our horizon, just to share sort of some of our internal meetings that take place, is what we call the Kodak moment. And that Kodak moment is the same thing that happened when digital film and that whole horizon took place, whatever it was, 15 years ago. We're going to see that now as the healthcare industry and the wearables industry actually come together, because you've got great technology which is very elegant, which is sleek, which is very charismatic in nature in terms of the way you look at it and the way you interact with it. And health, it's kind of a taboo word. You say health and it's got negative connotations to it. And then you look at the technology that surrounds health, and it's a little bit clunky. It's white. It looks more like a domestic appliance rather than something that you want to aspire to own. So there's a point on the horizon where there's going to be a lot of crossover between these two segments, and I think that's why it's sized at such a large market opportunity. So we see that point fast approaching, where it's just because you have a device, it doesn't mean you've got a problem. You've got a device, and it means you're responsible and you're taking care of yourself. And I think that point is definitely on the horizon, and I think that's where we come. That's where we arrive at data consumption. And I think these devices, once you pair that up with its ability to drive intelligently your agenda, then that's going to be a very interesting segment. And there's a whole ecosystem of partnerships and players and product providers that are waiting for that dawn. And I think as was highlighted earlier, if you're developing for mobile now, you should scrap that. You've got to be developing for wearables, because this is the onset of this opportunity is going to be significant. It's going to touch us all, and I mean it started to impact my life significantly, over the last 2 years. I mean, I got involved in a company and a startup for one, because I believe it's the holy grail is health and responsibility around health, and we're passionate about it in developing markets, which is why we actually decided we would initiate and start up here, because we believe there's a big opportunity for us as a company to make a significant difference in these markets. Wearable technology has a role to play. It's going to allow healthcare infrastructure to scale, and doctors to scale, and nurses and instrumentation to scale like you've never seen. And I think that's why it's going to be embraced as a significant opportunity for us.
Okay, thank you very much. So before we open the floor for audience to ask, I have one last question for you guys. So we have a proverb or a saying in Arabic. I'm sure it also exists in other cultures. So the proverb states that طباخ السم بذوقه. So which means that the person or the expert who prepare recipes for poison ought to try it at some point. So do you guys use wearable devices?
Yep. So I use this is our own MIMO. So this is definitely our own poison. And my aim on this one is we talked about this earlier, and I don't mean to offend anybody on this, but anybody ever been to Dunkin' Donuts? That's the wrong question to ask in a wearable. But if you, I have been, and I do like. Thank you, brother in arms. Appreciate it. Because here's an interesting statistic. Go and look at their logo. Okay. And you'll see, this is trademarked, by the way, and you can all go and look at this. The UAE runs on Dunkin'. Isn't that amazing? So that's trademark. You can go out and so any health professionals in here can go and check that out. My aim is to change the UAE runs on MIMO. So that's our own. That's a little plug.
Yeah, I mean, so everyone gives me my wearables for free, so because I've got a huge closet full. I try not to endorse a ton, but I've got like 3 or 4 that I'll wear pretty regular. I love my Shine. I like the look and feel of it. I have bad posture, and so 20 hours in front of a laptop like this, you start to look like Quasimodo. And so I've got this thing called LumaBack, which fixes your posture, and it buzzes me every time I get out of whack. So it's like your mother smacking you on the back of the head when you're. Those are some of my favorites. I do like some of the smarter watches, but most of them run on Android, and I'm an Apple guy, and so I don't like. Yeah, I know it's. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I definitely. I use the Pebble a lot. I like Pebble. I like them as a company and as people. I think the interesting thing that I love about this space, no one ever crowdfunded an app. No one ever backed it before it launched. But you have all these consumers driving this ecosystem, paying for things before they even see them. So there's this huge consumer expectation and belief that this is where things should go, and they're putting their money behind it in tens of millions of dollars. It's fantastic. So Pebble is one of the big ones. I just love those guys.
Okay, so Anil?
I'm a bit in denial. I wear glasses, but I don't wear them all the time. But I've had a Fitbit for some time. I never used it. It always gave me bad news. So I guess I think there is a point at which the tipping point comes and you actually start to make it part of your what you wear. So I'm waiting for the watch, the Apple Watch to come in, and that'll probably be my tipping point.
Okay, thank you. So we'll open the floor for some questions from the audience. So we'll start this way. Yes, go ahead.
And because of that, and because it opens it up to people to develop applications on it, I have the one device, and it can provide a whole set of personalized functions for me, which is great. When I go running, for a long time I had a Nike watch, and I still have to wear it because I've accumulated a whole set of goals that I've got. I've reached this sort of level, and the next one is coming up. So when I go running, I have to put my Nike watch on so that I can keep measuring that. I've got my Fitbit because I have to keep that going on because I don't want to lose track of all the steps I'm taking. And this is quite nice, the glass for running, because it shows me, I don't have to look down, and it shows me where I'm going, and it shows me speed and all the rest of it. But none of the other apps link with that. I have to have a Strava because that's the only one that links to glass. And so I'm having to kind of put lots and lots of different wearables on to kind of personalize what I want. And it feels to me what I'm looking for is to have wearables which the focus is on all the sensors and all the things that they have on them, and then I can get personalized apps that meet my health and other needs that will follow from wearable to wearable and will be all focused on that one thing. And I think that will make things a life a lot easier. So I'm wondering whether you think that's a sensible vision and whether you think that's going to happen, or are we just going to keep getting lots more wearables, more and more things to put on in different parts of the body before we can take it forward.
Very interesting point and very interesting question. So to add on that, actually, we already have Android-based operating system for wearable. It's like Android Wear. Probably most of you have heard of it. So can you elaborate, gentlemen?
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
So we, as a company, we view the collation of data as pivotal. So one of the things we've been working on over the last sort of 18 months is the ability to extract data from a number of devices, and not just devices which track activity, devices which track blood sugar, blood pressure, heart rate, weight. So we've been able to consolidate that in a central repository. The value for that is we want to be able to offer that content up to different members of our ecosystem that can give you a 360-degree view of you and your personal telemetry, because that's really what we're here to do. So we've struggled in the past with lots of different silos of data. So if you've got an activity tracker from one vendor, and then you've got you're looking at blood from another vendor, and you're looking at all of that data will either sit on the device, it'll sit on a scale if it's your weight, and there'll be an app from Fitbit somewhere that actually stores this information as well, which if you're really trying to make sense of that, you just hit the problem on the head. So first of all, we thought, well, we need a portfolio of devices that can integrate and provide the single source of information. Not truth, because somebody's going to interpret that and define what is truth for you. So we view that as being pivotal, and we do see, and we've already started to see, and we've been approached by everybody from the gaming guys, Electronic Arts, who said, look, if we take that repository of data, we can do some really cool gaming stuff with it. Not the gamification that you see today, something completely different. So having that single source for us has been a pursuit really for the last 18 months. So we not only now do it with our own devices, but we open that up. So different APIs can now look at the Tupelo platform and actually store the data in there. And on the back of that, doctors can look at it, and they can then start to prescribe something which is meaningful for you. And most importantly, they can analyze potentially the impact of medication as well, which has never been done before. So if I've got your blood, if I've got your weight, if I've got your heart rate, if I've got all of this, and when I say I don't mean I, but we've got that information, somebody can actually start making effective decisions and then start to look at the outcome of a decision that they're going to take. That's pretty much been impossible up until now. So for us as a company, there's certain things which we're betting the ranch on. That's one of them.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Would you like to, Anil?
I do think there's got to be, in the evolution of the maturity of this whole wearable technology, I think the timelines are going to actually crunch. There will be a middleware of sorts that is going to emerge to connect all of these various devices. That's bound to happen. In the app world or applications world, we had a bank which had diverse applications, a cards application, a retail application, a wealth application. Then you had something that stitched it all together. I think 2 years ago, when I played tennis, I used to wear this device strapped onto my chest. It was associated with a watch. And the minute my heart rate went over 160, it started to beep, so I had to kind of cool off a little bit on my game or take rest. That's my blood pressure talking. So that's one. But I always said at some point it might be really useful to have a watch or something like that that actually connected all of these and gave me multiple sets of data. I think Saudi Arabia alone is spending something like $20 billion on putting together this health repository of every one of its citizens. So if a Saudi citizen, and that will be linked to a global database of health information, the HISs are all going to collaborate on the cloud somewhere. And if I'm traveling to somewhere else and I do have an attack of some sort, that information should be available to the doctor who's treating me in Spain. So I think it's a question of time before all of these devices would actually be converging to get data on any aspect of my life, and there comes a whole bunch of legal issues to do with privacy and sharing of information and data. I think we're on the cusp of a very big disruptive phase of how the connected devices are going to be ubiquitous in every form and shape. I think we have to be willing to share everything that we know about ourselves almost from under our skin. And I think that will be a movement of sorts that actually connects people at a very, very, at a medical level, at an intuitive level, at an emotional level, that actually sends out the right signals to the people whom we're interacting with.
Okay, thank you.
So real quick, Apple is going to outspend everybody combined in marketing 100 to 1 to drive the ecosystem forward. 100 to 1. Like Pebble, like Motorola, combine them all, and they're going to do this, and it's going to drive the entire, rising tide floats all boats. Right now, the Android ecosystem looks closer to Symbian or J2ME, right? It's just not there. When Apple gets behind it, they already have an ecosystem of applications and guys that are going to look to port over, and most of those guys are going to fail. But what you're going to see is a lot of new apps emerge based around that platform that's just going to crush it and blow it up. So the apps will come when Apple moves it. There's other